I grew up, I got older, didn't go to the parks, didn't even think about the parks very much at all. And that video just went like completely took off. I want to say like within a week it had 100,000 views or something. I don't remember. You can retread ground that's been tread before. And it doesn't matter. If anyone out there is considering being a creator, I would resist that advice a bit.
Ever since planning my first trip to Walt Disney World, I turned to the most reliable source that anybody can find information: social media. But all teasing aside, have you ever wondered who's behind the content that we all know and love and constantly crave more of? What are they like? What are their personalities? And how do they create this content that we continuously crave? Well, I've got the answer, and this is the first episode of hopefully very many where I get to dive behind the scenes with some of these creators that we all know and love. So without further ado, here's episode 1, Behind the Creator, Matt Richardson edition. Yes, I'm so excited to have Matt Richardson. Thanks for joining us, man, for the very first episode.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So a little backstory before we get into, I met Matt in the parks a couple weeks ago, and we were riding Guardians, and there's that crazy thing with everybody going through the doors before the pre-show was done, and I saw you in the corner filming, and I was like, I think I recognize that guy. And then sure enough, we actually got to ride together and got to know each other for a few minutes.
Fun.
So yeah,
it was fun. I'm glad we got to do that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, so Matt, kind of take us back to your first memories of the parks. What made you fall in love with Disney?
So I went to the parks as a kid with my family, maybe a couple times, not much. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. We made the drive down I-95 to get to the parks. I would say maybe 2 or 3 times in my childhood. And then I grew up, I got older, didn't go to the parks, didn't even think about the parks very much at all. And my husband and I were in Florida about 10 years ago, and we were nearby the parks. And I said, why don't we go there? Why don't we check it out and see what's going on there? I was just curious. And I was just interested in technology. I'm interested in the sort of the business of hospitality and operations and stuff like that. So let's check that out. And we did 2 days, and it was like Epcot and Magic Kingdom. And that was what made me realize that there's really something there for everybody. There's something there for adults. It's not just a thing that families go, and it's not just a thing for kids. And so after that, I got an annual pass and kept returning. I was going to Disneyland and Disney World. We were living in California at the time. And so I was going to Disneyland a lot. I was going to California, going to Disneyland a lot, Disney World a lot. And it kind of blossomed. It just blossomed. I was just going a lot, enjoying myself, trying new things. And then it wasn't until maybe a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, that I started to do the content creation aspect of it.
Okay. And what kind of inspired that?
Well, so it's interesting. So a couple of years ago, I was in the parks, and we were going to do this 50th anniversary tour when Disney World's 50th anniversary was happening. And I saw it as an opportunity. I went to film school. I was making videos on and off in high school. I was part of the television industry in New York City. And I
Wow.
kind of had this idea to bring together this sort of love of creating content and video with this opportunity I had to do this 50th anniversary tour, which was amazing. And I could talk about that forever. But so I cut together a really short video about this whole day experience, which was hard to do because I was trying to keep the video down to like a minute or two. And that video just went like completely took off. I want to say like within a week it had 100,000 views or something. I don't
Wow.
remember, but it was kind of incredible to me that like there's a lot of demand for Disney content, Disney parks content. I saw that I was doing something that was an interesting thing that not a lot of people got the chance to do. So I wanted to share that experience. And then I kind of picked up, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I like, having making things and having an audience and having people see it and appreciate it and starting a little bit of discourse. I really enjoyed that. So that was really how it all got started. I would say with that 50th anniversary video. And then I just couldn't stop making videos.
Yeah. Yeah. So like thinking about, you know, your journey from there until now. How did you approach content creation back then, and what does it look like more today?
So yeah, I was getting started. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot over time. I've learned that, for me, I think the key thing that I need to do is go out and experience things and share my experience the best I can in an accessible way. It was about going and seeking interesting aspects of the things I was doing in the parks. In the beginning, it was just throwing a lot of stuff out there. It was just, let me try to make a video where I talk about the ride systems at Hollywood Studios. And then I made a video where I go into a restaurant and just sort of give the experience from beginning to end of eating at a particular restaurant at Disney World. And honestly, what I found is that I haven't unlocked what the solution or the key is here. But what I found is that if you put a lot of time into the craft, you film it comprehensively, you collect your thoughts about what is something you want to say about this, what's interesting about it, what's your take on it. People appreciate that, people want to see that, and if you don't waste their time, I think that was the kind of, in the end, is what I realized, is that you want to give people some interesting content, you want to share your experience, you don't want to waste their time, you want to value your audience's time. And so I learned how to really jump quickly into what the like kernel of my story is. I jumped really quickly as best as I can without being too frenetic. I tried a lot of
Mhm.
videos where I was being really, really frenetic. I was jumping all over. I was like, bah, 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 throwing stuff at people. And what I realized is that, like, those videos weren't necessarily doing that great, but also I just didn't like the output of them. It didn't feel like it matched my personality, which is, I'm a little bit more of a calm person. So finding that balance between how to give people value for the time they're spending watching you, while also going at a pace that matches your style and your personality, I think was something I needed to kind of find. And honestly, like, I still haven't totally found my way. I know I have a particular style to doing things, but I'm still figuring things out. I'm always trying new things. I will never stop trying new things. There's never a
Yeah,
formula to anything. These platforms are changing. Audience behaviors are changing. The world around us is changing. And so you constantly have to be trying new things. And so I'll always be doing that and seeing what works and what doesn't. It doesn't hurt my feelings if something doesn't work, but at
right.
least I tried it out.
Yeah, yeah. You there's a lot to unpack there because, like, yeah. First of all, I think that everybody, like, I'm, you know, obviously I'm still starting out. We've only posted about 5 or 6 YouTube videos. We're going hard. You know, we're being really consistent, and just like nothing's gonna stop us from continuing to do that. But like I feel that trap of, like, you see, like, well, take for example Mr. Beast, like big creator like him, you know, he's
Yeah.
so energetic, and like you said, like boom 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 boom, like he's hitting you with all this information, and it's hard to see all these big creators that have these big personalities, and you're like, how do I mimic that? And you try, but it's like it it doesn't come out right for you because it's not you.
Authenticity. I mean, so we could talk about, there's so many different key aspects to content creation. Authenticity is a big one, is that you have to stay true to who you are. That's really where you're going to get an audience that relates to you, understands you, believes you. Certainly you're going to dial up aspects of your true self and take away some aspects of your true self in order to get the right mix across. But you do have to be your true self, and you have to use your true self. You cannot try to be someone else or be something else that is out of who you are, because people see it, they know, and they don't want to watch that. And so I think about that all the time, is that like, I want my content to reflect truly who I am, but hopefully it's the best and most interesting aspects of who I
Right,
am.
right, yeah. Yeah, it's true. You don't think about, like, you take even creators in our niche, like, you're not thinking about their whole entire day. They're giving their best. You know what who they are on camera is not always, not to say that they aren't authentic off camera, but, like, you know, they are truly giving their best to themselves. So you got to take it in perspective too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You should put your best foot forward if you're recording yourself, and you should, if you're excited about something, you might have to, like, I found that I wasn't necessarily expressing my excitement about something clearly on camera. And it was when I was sitting in the editing room. And
Mm,
let's say I would go through a whole experience and I ended the experience and my perspective was, whoa, that was amazing. That was incredible. And then I'm going through the footage and I say, it doesn't look like I think it's incredible. It doesn't seem like it. I don't have enough footage to work with. Now, in post-production, you can use your voice. You can do a voiceover after the fact and you can kind of put your excitement into it, but you really want those visuals to match that. And so then I realized that for me is that when I'm experiencing something, I'm thinking about what are my emotions while I experience it, and how can I make sure those are conveyed on camera? How can I make sure I'm conveying that with the shots that I'm getting? It's not a portrayal of any kind. It's not fake at all. It's just making sure I'm capturing truly capturing what I'm feeling, and that is going to come through on camera because you don't realize that like you can be watching the example I would give is this. You could be watching people watching a movie, their faces are blank, nothing's going on in their face, but
yeah.
they'll walk out and be like, wow, that was amazing. And
Yeah.
so you have to think about that. And so I try to think about that, is that I think about, how am I feeling right now? Do I like this? Is this amazing to me? Can I show that on my face a little bit so that I can have that visual match whatever script I'm going to write for the voiceover in the future?
Yeah, man, I didn't, yeah, I never have thought about that. Like, yeah, you really got to think about, and yeah, that's like something, yeah, that's a lot to think about for sure. It's like, you don't think about, yeah, like you just said, when you're watching a movie, like, yeah, you got to take that into perspective. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
the emotions you feel inside, you kind of have to let them out a little bit in order for the people you're taking along with you to see them. You have to express them a little bit more. So I think essentially when it comes to being a creator and being authentic, you're being authentic, but you're just sort of amping up some things a little bit so that the message is getting across about the emotion you're feeling.
Yeah. So when you go to the parks, like, do you have a plan of what you're doing a lot of the time, or is it kind of spontaneity, mix of both, or?
It's definitely a mix of both. Sometimes I have a mission. Sometimes I know exactly what I want to get. There's something I want to say about something. There's an experience I'm going to experience, and I want to share that. And I know it's going to be sort of a, here was my experience of, let's say, doing the Wild Africa trek at Animal Kingdom from beginning to end. So I know what I kind of need to get captured there. I know what the sort of process is going to be like. Sometimes I go into the parks. I have no clue what I'm doing. What I might do is start my day or start my visit in the form of a vlog where I'm like, hey, join me at Epcot, right? And see where things go. It may turn into a deep dive on a very, very specific thing that happened to me, or it may just end up being I went to Epcot. I did this, I did this, I did this, and then I went home. And those are completely different things, but I found that people really like both kinds of things. You never know what you're going to get. Like you can have that deep dive into an experience that people love, that little detail that you found and you made a 90-second video about, and then other people will enjoy that, a compressing a, let's say, a 4 hour visit into 90 seconds, and boom, it works great. So
Yeah.
I don't go in always with a plan unless like it's a particular dining reservation I have, a different plan I have. Every now and then I have an idea for a video kind of in the back of my head, and I go out and get it. But it's truly, I get inspired by what I see in the parks. It's just things, I bump into things, I see things that like, oh, that'll work, and then I start filming. Sometimes I'm just running around filming my whole day. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that footage. I don't know how I'm going to use it, what it's going to be used for. And then I'm at home and I'm going through all my footage and I say, "Oh wait, I see a narrative here. I see a story here. I see something I want to say. I see a bit I can use here." And then that turns into something. So
Okay. Yeah, that's wow. Okay. You talked about obviously like content is always changing, and not just content, but the algorithms of all those different platforms and everything. Um how how do you evolve? Like, especially when where you're going, it is changing, but there is something to, it's not like where you're always traveling to a new destination. It's more, how do you keep content fresh, is I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It's a good question. And luckily, in the realm, in our niche, in this realm, there is a massive amount of stuff out there. Between you've got four parks at Disney World, two at Disneyland, and then a bunch of other parks all over the world, which I'm fortunate enough to visit.
Yeah.
And each of those parks have a massive amount of depth. On top of that, Disney parks is good because they're changing things all the time. They're adding new things all the time. So I never feel like there's a scarcity of source material. I feel like there's always interesting stuff. But I will say this, you can retread ground that's been tread before. And it doesn't matter. Like a good example was I just went to, with a friend of mine invited me to go to Droid Depot at Galaxy's Edge. That's been around since Galaxy's Edge has been open. People have been building robots in there, since then.
Yeah.
And I'd never done it, but I filmed it. I filmed him building his bot and his droid. And um, I wasn't giving any new take on the experience, but I was like, here's what I saw. Here's what it's like. Here's whatever. I mean, right now on TikTok, it has like 500,000 views,
Oh,
but
wow. Okay.
you can't take for granted the fact that, another example is like Tony's Town Square in Magic Kingdom. That's been, I don't know how long that's been there.
Yeah.
You can still walk in there, film your experience and share it. People still want to see it because these things change all the time. The menu there has changed a bunch.
Yeah.
And even if it hasn't changed at all, you might offer some fresh perspective. And even if you're not offering a fresh perspective, you might just hit the thing. You might just hit the vein of interest that is out there in that particular topic. Or maybe it's come due for another look, fresh look by people who've never thought about it. You've got tons of people taking their first trips ever. They may have heard of Droid Depot, Tony's Town Square, but they don't know about it and they might just encounter your video at the right time for them. And I hear from people all the time. It's like, planning my first trip, I saw your video about this. It's great. I love that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That gives a
So
unique. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So I'm sorry. So like in terms of like your question was really about evolution, and I'm
Yeah.
saying that like you could keep your everything static, and there's no scarcity of source material at all. But tastes change, styles change, formats change, platforms change, algorithms change, all these things change. And, I, in a sense, I kind of try to read the tea leaves a little bit, but the truth is, it's really hard as a creator to really get any kind of meaningful data that's going to help you. It's what I call stochastic. It's a little all over the place. You're just like you might get a hit here, you might get a flop there, and honestly, it may not have much to do with anything you've done or anything you have control over. So the best thing you can do is always put your best foot forward and look for fresh ways of doing things. You might take inspiration from what other people are doing, as long as you're not totally ripping off other people's stuff. You might evolve in that sense. But I think there's always this encouragement for creators to, you should be reflective. You should look at what you're doing. You may not be able to catch a pattern. I truly can't catch a pattern. I can't see
Yeah.
what the pattern is, but I do know that if I put my best foot forward, I put my best foot forward in terms of filming it as best as I can, providing a quality, viewing experience, respecting my viewers' time. A 1 in 10 might be really, really successful, and I think that's a good run rate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fresh perspective because, a lot of the, we'll say big creators out there are saying to find your niche. And like, obviously our niche is theme parks and Disney, but it's like within that, it's almost everybody says that you have to find your thing. But like when audiences are changing, how can you find your thing? You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah, and I would resist if anyone out there is considering being a creator, I would resist that advice a bit. The sort of niching down and getting in there, finding your little spot. because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself for good. You really, and that's like a part of it. Like if you look at my content feed, my channels, you'll see I'm not just at Disney parks. I'm on
Yeah.
planes. I'm in Italy, and I'm doing all these things. I travel a lot for work. I share those experiences. I also just share day-to-day experiences in my own home. It's a little bit of everything. That truly, again, this is the authentic Matt Richardson you see when you're looking at me
Yeah.
on in a feed, and that's intentional because I don't want to be pigeonholed into Walt Disney World creator who, and you can even niche down further than that. A lot of people do
Right.
even go further than that, but even Walt Disney World creator is too fine for me. Disney parks creator, too fine for me. And I think so I kind of like broaden out a little bit because I want a little room to play. It gives you a little bit more room to experiment in. And certainly I know people can find success by finding their niche and just
Yeah.
hanging out there for a while. But yeah, it does make it a little hard to be flexible and try new things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a great perspective. We talked about, like going back to maybe away from content creation, but just in Disney in general. You talk about, Disney always changing things and um, obviously we're in a time where we're kind of awaiting a little bit. Maybe, we've seen teases and blue sky things here and there. I guess what would you like to see, and what do you think would happen in like we have D23 coming up in August. That's obviously where they make some of their big announcements. Like, what do you think? What would you like to see change in the parks?
Oh wow. Man. I so generally parks are packed, the parks are crowded. We need more in order for Disney to be competitive, generally competitive. They just need to have more. They have a ton. They've got in the top 10 most visited theme parks in the world. They've got most of them,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of demand for it. And so generally speaking, more. But I think like it's tough. What I've seen in terms of what they're talking about Blue Sky, I really like. You look at the land expansion like Galaxy's Edge. You look at the sort of, Pandora land expansion that they're doing to existing parks. I have a sense that this is the direction that they're going to continue to go in with these sort of land expansions of existing parks rather than adding a fifth gate, as they say.
yeah, right.
Um, and I like that because there's a lot of really vivid IP that we've seen since, the last expansion, and I got really excited at the last D23 when they talked about like the potential for some sort of immersive experience in the realm of Coco or Encanto, which just lend themselves to
Yeah,
potentially an incredibly enveloping and rich experience. I mean, if I were an Imagineer, I would be like, I want to do the Encanto project. I want to do the Coco project because the 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 imagery, the music, the sound, the characters are just so vivid
hmm
that it's just it would just be incredible. It would be incredible to say, what if like that blue sky thing of if we wanted to make an attraction of some kind, any kind of attraction that made you feel like you were in the world of Encanto, what would it be? And it's just like your mind races.
yeah,
It's unbelievable. It's fantastic. Now, of course, like they do have to kind of like keep existing, existing attractions, freshen them up a little bit. That's a lot of
yeah,
work, and that hurts people's feelings all the time. But like it's a big part of it.
yeah,
It's also a big part of it. But again, like I think the key is expansion,
yeah,
expansion.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm excited to see. I don't think people get all up in arms when Disney comes out and says, well, maybe. And I get it, but it's like, especially this year, why would you announce something now when they've already said the this D23 is going to be the biggest and baddest and the best D23 we've ever done. Um, yeah, so like
It, it,
I agree with you.
it's so it's really it's a gift that Disney shares so much of their thinking so early on. Like we are lucky we get to hear about what they're thinking about. The
Right.
curse, however, is that it disappoints us when it's not as massive as we hope it to be, or a
Yeah.
project gets canceled. They so honestly, Disney does not have to tell us as much as they do. I
Hmm.
love that they do. I love that they do. They tell us their plans. It gets us excited about it. They don't have to do that.
Hmm.
So, the curse again on the other side is just like it doesn't live up to our expectations, or a plan just gets shelved. I think I was thinking recently about wasn't there a plan about redoing Spaceship Earth,
Oh yeah. Yep.
the interior of the actual ride itself. We're doing it. That had me so excited. Now, latest is that's it's
Right.
totally shelved. It's just not
Right.
happening at all. It's so disappointing, but I love that like we feel kind of a little bit included in this sort of Disney planning that happens, and they can kind
Yeah.
of, in a sense, I think sometimes there's a little bit of a trial balloon they put out there. They talked the last D23 about what happens beyond Thunder Mountain.
Right. Right.
They threw out what, like three, four different things that they
Yeah.
were going to do. In my mind, that was a little bit of a trial balloon. They wanted to see
Yeah.
what's the idea that's really going to get people excited, and see what works there. That's all. The potential is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you said there too, because it's two different approaches if you compare Disney to Universal, as people often do, because Universal is the kind of the opposite. They keep things close to their chest until they're about to happen, which is great, but the curse of that is people already know about it through patents and everything else.
Right.
So it's kind of like a letdown, not a letdown, but it's like, it's not as like, wow, okay, that's what we're getting. It was like, okay, great, we're getting it. Like it's confirmed for sure, but we already knew about it.
Right, right. And so maybe I mean I'm no marketing pro, but like it sounds like that whole idea of letting us in on the potential, letting us in on what possibly could be there, is their way of kind of getting out ahead of
Yeah,
it's spun in the right way, where like if you're talking about reimagining Splash Mountain as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We knew about that a long time ago, and
yeah,
they told us why they were doing it, and they told us what to expect from it. And so
right,
the first we heard from it was from Disney, and they made it clear why it was happening and what was
yeah,
going on there and what to expect. I really like that. I think there's a little bit of respect there, rather than us all wondering what's going on, and then the
yeah,
rumor mill just, in absence of information, rumor mill swirls, and you get bad information, and you get lots of, so, hats off to Disney. They know what they're doing, I think, from a marketing perspective. I'm sure. I'm positive they know what they're doing from a marketing perspective. Again, it's a gift and a curse.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I we brought up like some of the changes that we think maybe in Disney, has kind of talked about Blue Sky. A lot of it is surrounded by IP. How do you feel about like the shift in like in IP driven lands versus, you know, original, not just original, but not related to an existing character?
Yeah. So I get why they tie attractions to IP, right? It makes if I like it's a it just makes the bet a lot safer. I get it. It's just why we have so many sequels of movie, right?
Yeah.
From a movie studio's perspective, it's a safe bet. I do wish, however, that we had a couple side bets
Hmm.
for non-IP associated attractions. I'm not sure we're going to see it much. I don't know. I would love it, but like again, they're not going to make a huge bet. I don't think that is the way consumer tastes are now, the way
Yeah.
trends are now. I don't see them making a big bet on non-IP attractions in the parks, unfortunately, as much as I would love to see that, as much as I would love to see that. Consumer preferences may change. People may start getting sick of sequels and IP based things, and they may say, we need to bring something fresh into the parks. I would love to see that, but I think we're a long way away from that, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Because I'm sure, Disney's obviously behind the scenes looking years down the road, and
Yeah.
if they see the statistics now and thinking, that's probably only going to carry on. Obviously, I'm not a marketing pro either, but I would think like if there was a shift even during that, we're already
Yeah.
we're already looking at 10 years after that, if anything,
Right.
at the minimum, to
Right.
see changes.
Right. And Disney is story driven, narrative driven. That's it's narrative first,
Yeah.
right? And I think there was a time in which they were, you know, there's certainly narrative is the core, is the DNA of this as of them as a business. But I think there was a time where they also just kind of like to play, and they
Yeah.
like said, wouldn't it be neat if we had this attraction, which was, I don't know, a boat ride through a greenhouse, right? That's a bad example,
Hmm.
but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just there was a time that they were just trying things and seeing how they work, and they were, doing stuff like that. But like, right now it's that narrative, that connection to characters that people have, is the core component of what we're seeing. That
Hmm.
narrative is just like really doubling down on stories people already know and love, and that makes sense. It makes sense. You're never like everything. It's funny. The funny thing about like narrative in Disney is that like they'll open up a restroom and it'll have some sort of like connection to the narrative in the land, right? Or a cafe. It's just like it is so
Yeah.
funny. When they opened the confectionery, the Main Street confectionery, there's a whole backstory for the it's
Yeah.
not just a candy store on Main Street.
Yeah.
There's like characters, and they won an award, and these are the candy. It's
Yeah.
so funny to me. It's the narrative is so embedded in every little thing they do, and I think that's great. I think that's great. But I think that's the way it is for now. But well, then I'm actually confectionery. That's a good example. They made up a whole backstory to make this
Right.
candy. They didn't make it the cocoa confectionery.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
made up a whole backstory for that, and it's fun. I like that. I like that.
Yeah. I think there was a time when they were first implementing IP related things where they were just, I mean, I even think about original attractions like Peter Pan. I mean, that's obviously, it's just a
Yeah,
retelling of, and that's that's a really old attraction. So it's always been there. But I think when the IP rides were starting to be the focus, say for instance like Frozen or something like that, it was just the same thing of retelling the story in a dark ride or whatever kind of ride it is. But I think now they see the need to maybe blend a little bit of, you know, let's continue on their story.
right.
And that's why I'm really excited for Tiana's. I'm like hoping they drop. I heard a rumor that they're gonna drop the date of when it's opening on some in New Orleans,
Mm.
some kind of crazy. I forget what it is, but I'm waiting and I'm buying flights the same day because I want to be there. I want to see, like, I really think they're gonna start trying to blend, attractions with IP, but also telling a new story. I mean, they did
Right.
that with Moana.
Yep.
The story of water. It's not, obviously it's just a walkthrough attraction. It's not like a full blown dark ride or something like that. But it's not like you really wouldn't know it's Moana unless you really listen to the music or look for the hidden characters as things like that.
Yeah, and that's what I think when they sit in their Imagineering conference room, and they're talking about in this from a big picture blue sky perspective here. They want to bring you into the world of these characters. They don't necessarily want to retell what you saw in the theater. And you know, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, you're in the universe of Guardians of the Galaxy. You've got the
Yeah.
characters, but you're on your own journey here. And
Yeah.
that's really cool. I like that. I want to experience something new. So I don't want a retelling. I want to be in that universe, and I want to experience something new in that universe. And so I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice blend between the two. Yeah, and I think it'll continue to be refined as we see
Yeah.
new attractions come out in the future. So blending kind of the content creation with obviously the love of Disney, like what has been some some favorite moments of yours in the parks?
Oh boy, I've been lucky to do lots of interesting stuff in the parks. I really sought out interesting experiences. Sometimes that's motivated by being able to get good content. I think I had mentioned earlier about the 50th anniversary tour. So when Walt Disney World was celebrating its 50th, they had a VIP tour, which was unlike any other VIP tour. It was on rails. It had a particular itinerary. It started you in one spot. It took you through the story of Walt Disney World by, you take at one point you're on a boat, then you're on the train, then you're in, sky, you don't go on the Skyliner, but like you use all these different modes of transportation to move around the resort all day. You're guided by a VIP tour guide and telling the story of Walt Disney World's creation, and it was such an incredible experience. And like at the end, what they do is you ride on Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind because it's like, and then there's the future, and then that's like the
Oh,
direction of the way things go. So that was one of the experiences. In addition to like the aspects of telling the story of Walt Disney World's development, it was also you saw what happens backstage. You go into the utilidors, you go up into
okay.
Cinderella's castle to the suite, you get to kind of look around there and see that. That was a fun experience. And then one of the cool things is that you go into the ballroom scene, behind the scenes at the ballroom scene in Haunted Mansion while the ride is running.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really cool. So you're seeing those reflections you're seeing as part of the Pepper's Ghost effect. You're seeing the actual figures that have the lights shined on them at the right moments, and you're right there. You're standing right there. So that was one of those incredible experiences that was offered for a very limited time, and it was amazing. It was incredible. And so that was like uh just looking for I'm always looking for opportunities like that. Where can I how is Disney offering some sort of interesting access or some sort of interesting opportunity? Like if you like living with the land, do the behind the scenes tour, because that's like for people who love living with the land, and I know there's a lot of people out there, I'm one of them. Behind the
Yeah, for
scenes
sure.
lets you see a different perspective on all that and lets you hear all the things about it. It goes on a deeper dive. So I love stuff like that. This is the sort of thing I'm truly after. I was just looking at there's an opportunity for D23 members to do the Burbank tour of Walt Disney Studios, and I want to do that. I looked at it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks. I was like, oh, maybe I can add that to my work schedule calendar to do that. Fortunately, they don't allow any videography. They allow photos, but they
Oh,
don't allow
yeah.
videography. So it's kind of like made me think, I really want to do it, but I was mostly wanted to do it because I wanted to capture the experience and share it. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm all about.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we kind of didn't really start going to Disney World on the regular anyways until right before the 50th. And so that was some of our first
Right.
trips uh going there. So we didn't really quite understand all the interworkings of everything. But I after the fact I had heard about the that 50th VIP tour, and yeah, I kind of wish we were there for that. But
Yeah, it was incredible. It was quite an experience. It was definitely one of those like peak Disney experiences for me, especially Cinderella Suite, behind the scenes at Haunted Mansion, Utilidors, and then generally like for me, like our guide, his VIP tour guide named Seth was fantastic because he just knows Disney so well, and it was fantastic and just shared his passion for the history of Disney, Walt Disney himself, the development of the parks and everything. It was just truly a great experience. Now, it was an expensive experience, so
yeah.
we found a group of people, like is my husband and I wanted to do it, and we found other people who were willing to split the cost of it with us, and we filled
Yeah.
up the van. And so that made it a lot easier to do. And all of us together actually are pretty good friends. We still keep in touch, which was kind of fun. So
Oh, that's cool.
it was really, yeah, it was neat. It was really neat.
Yeah. Yeah, would you say like have you done any other like behind the scenes tours besides that? I've always like been on the cusp of like, is it worth it? Do I do it?
Yeah. So I haven't done any of the official behind the scenes VIP tours, but I've gotten, sorry, the behind the scenes tours. I have gotten unofficial tours before, or
Okay.
like special tours before. And I could talk about this. Like when I was, for work, we had a partnership with Disney, and part of that partnership included it was a contest, and part of the one of the prizes was being able to do a sort of Imagineering tour of Disneyland. And when we were building this partnership, I asked our Disney rep, I was like, hey, like, is it all right if I go along when the prize winners are doing this? And they're like, yeah, come along. I was like, oh my God, yes. So I did a lot of behind the scenes attractions at Disneyland. One of my favorite parts of that was to seeing Radiator Springs Racers at Disneyland California Adventure, walking the track in the morning before the park opened, seeing how all the animatronics are tested and everything. That was an incredible experience. This was before I was a content creator, and also there was
Okay.
no way they were going to let me
Yeah.
record any of this because this was strictly secret behind the scenes stuff. It
Right.
was an incredible experience to be able to see all that. Just we saw the sort of area where they are um, technically they're sort of doing the technical work on the parade floats, making sure things work. They showed us the inside of the parade floats, what the driver sees and
Wow.
everything. It was amazing. That was truly once in a lifetime opportunity. And now that I'm telling everybody about it, I'm probably never gonna get invited again.
Yeah, right.
No,
Hey,
no. Yeah.
yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So like comparing uh, if you watch some of your videos, you see that you've been to a lot of the different theme parks. We just went to Disneyland for the first time, and we loved doing the comparison of.
Yeah.
We tried not to compare it to Disney World.
Right.
It's hard not to, but
Right.
like, what are some of the things you've seen in the other parks that you wish were in Disney World, or would you
Oh,
not want to? That's the
okay.
question.
So I've been lucky enough to visit all but one park in the world. The only one I haven't visited was Hong Kong.
Okay.
And before Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind opened, my favorite ride out of any Disney park was Pirates of the Caribbean in Shanghai.
Oh
Um,
yes.
so this is an unbelievable attraction, truly unbelievable. If you watch the behind the attraction on Disney
Yeah.
Plus for Pirates of the Caribbean, you see a preview of what they're talking about here. It is like mixing a little bit of Rise of the Resistance with Pirates, obviously, and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, and like I'll tell you, like this experience is completely jaw dropping. The day we were in Shanghai to go to Disney, the parks were empty. I think it was like
Wow.
school in China had just started or something, so
Oh,
it was
okay.
like basically equivalent of going right after Labor Day for us in the US. And
Right.
we were able to go through that over and over and over again. And like, I mean,
Wow.
we had to go out and see the other parts of the park, and we tried Tron for the first time before it opened in the US. It was cool. But like Pirates Shanghai, I think it just it made the trip worth it. I thought it was
Yeah.
unreal. So that's something I want to see. Like the stuff that like also like what they're doing with like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, the Omni Coaster system.
Yeah.
I truly believe they have to use that Omni Coaster system with other IP or other air. You bring it
Yeah.
to other parks. It's a winner. We like I haven't met anyone who doesn't like Cosmic
Right.
Rewind, and it potentially is one of the best roller coasters in the world right now. Not on thrill level, but on
Yeah.
just fun. And so I would love to see them use the Omni Coaster in other ways through other IP. I mean, I don't know. You could do like a little like family Omni Coaster for the Coco journey into the other side, or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. Right. Flying on the back of what are they called? The
Yeah,
man.
I'm not gonna be able to come up with
I
it.
don't know either. I've seen them, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean there's a lot they could do. I've seen, obviously I watched behind the attraction of the that Pirates ride, but like Pirates has always been it was actually, I want to say, the first ride that we did. Actually no,
Mhm.
Splash Mountain was the first ride we ever did in Magic Kingdom, but
So did you do Pirates at Disneyland?
yeah. And I have a hot take.
Okay.
Everybody says it's better. I didn't like it better. And I'll tell you why.
Really? Okay.
Because it was almost too long. And so the reason I like Disney World so much, it is
Okay.
shortish,
Yeah.
but you go, you have the couple of cave scenes, and then you drop and you're in the action and you're in there.
Right.
And I love that feeling. It might be just because I rode this one first. I tend to be that way, like whatever I ride first, if we're comparing attractions, is what I like more. But like I just felt like I loved Disneyland's. I loved all the Easter eggs that you can tell the movie pulled from that version.
Right.
or the movies, I should say. But it just like when you finally, I mean, like you dropped and you dropped again,
Right.
and you had all the other scenes, and then you finally get to the ship, and shooting to land, and all the fighting is happening. It just was like a little lackluster as far as excitement goes, because you've been immersed, you've been fully immersed, but there's not that like boom, you drop, you're like you're in it. I don't know.
So I understand what you're saying about the sort of pacing and everything. That Disney World is shorter, but it has really good pacing. The thing I love about Disneyland is that settling into the bayou when you get started, and you're coming out of the chaos of Disneyland. They yell at you to go to row
Yeah.
3. You get on the boat, and the boat takes off the dock, and but there's this moment where everything settles there in that bayou, and
Hmm.
I love that scene so much. I absolutely love that scene. Now I understand Disney World's version of Pirates doesn't take place in a there's no bayous around
Right.
there. It's not,
Right.
it doesn't make sense there. But I do think there could be sort of an equivalent moment like that. If you look at Grand Fiesta Tour at Epcot,
Yeah.
you have that sort of same settling. You're going around
Right.
the pyramid there. It sort of settles a bit, and I like that moment. It's just like, okay, you're on the ride. Let's just take a moment before we really throw you into things. And they did it really well at Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on that. It's nice to have pacing. It doesn't like it shouldn't be all energy. Like there should
Right.
be a
Right.
moment, almost like a false sense of security, like lulling you
Yeah.
into that. And I still think they
Yeah.
do that, especially with the drops, because you drop and then you're not expecting the second drop. I love the story behind that too. Um,
Yeah.
Having the two drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I agree with you, and I loved both for what they are. Um, I will say that in general, I like the attractions in Disneyland more.
Hmm.
There's some things missing that, obviously Disney World is always going to be our home. I love the immersiveness of being in the bubble.
In the bubble.
You
Yeah.
Yeah, you walk out on the street and you're in Anaheim. It's kind of
Yeah.
like we stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, so we didn't
Wonderful.
experience that as much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think that I don't know, some of they just have the different edge to them.
Yeah, Disneyland has a really nice, charming character to it that I really like. And they've got some unique attractions, some original attractions that I like. But I think the thing that Disney World just completely trounces Disneyland on is just abundance, like
Yeah,
sheer size, abundance. I mean, it is unreal. So like, you could conceivably do 3 days at Disneyland, and but
yeah,
you could also conceivably do like 10 days at Disney World and still be
yeah.
like doing new things every day. I'm a maximalist. I want abundance. I want a
Hmm.
little bit of it. I want everything. I just want to have this massive buffet of things to choose from. That's why I generally prefer Disney World, although
Yeah,
I love Disneyland. It's a great spot. It's a great spot.
yeah. For what it is, they pack a lot into it.
Oh
You,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the key, like I remember my wife saying like, "How is there so many rides in Fantasyland yet it's smaller than ours?"
Yeah.
Like
I know. It's
it's
amazing.
unbelievable.
It's amazing. So did you do Radiator Springs Racers when you were there?
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
did every single
Okay.
attractions, but yeah, we
Oh,
did that
good.
for sure. And actually, my wife refuses to do test track. She kind of had a traumatic incident with a bad car crash, a couple years ago. So something with you go around the corner and you swerve her out of the way of the truck.
Yeah.
She just
Un-
she did it once. She's like, I'm never going on test track again.
Understood.
So,
And
but
so
she
did she do Radiator Springs?
Yeah, yeah, and
Okay.
she loved it. She was like anticipating, there's still that little scene where Mac kind of
Yeah.
beeps at you, and I told her I was ready for, she was ready for it. I'm
Okay.
terrible at like I can't not spoil things for myself. I watch
Right.
ride throughs and all that. Um so I anticipated it. But yeah, she that 100% is, I mean, I like test track, but that is, yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
golden.
It's great. It's great. I love that. You know something, it just will take you off on a little tangent here. The
Yeah.
thing that like my main, you've done Tron, I presume, at Magic
Oh yeah.
Kingdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So The thing that bothers me about Tron, although it's a fantastic ride, great thrill, love that it has outdoor and indoor elements, the big like best moment is right at the beginning.
I know.
And unlike if you look at Test Track or Radiator Springs Racers, you go through the ride building, you do all these things, and then your big finale, the big finale launch outside. And I
Yeah.
kind of wish that they designed Tron in reverse to be a little bit more like that. Maybe there's a little bit of a launch
Yeah.
inside. You go do all this stuff inside, and then the big finale right outside.
Right.
I think people would like Tron and forgive it for being so short if it ended with a bang a little bit more. So that's my hot take on Tron for you there.
Yeah, no, that's a great yeah, I never thought about that. And there's a lot of coasters that do that, that have that the kind of dark ride portion, and then you sometimes don't even know it's a coaster until it's like boom, we're in it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's again, these are, Disney's about telling a story, and a story has an arc, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so the experience of going through something like Tron has to have an arc as well. And like Guardians of the Galaxy is a great example. It has a whole arc to it as well. There's a story going on there. It has an arc with a big finish.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So, and Radiator Springs Racers, they build up to this rate. You're not racing yet.
Yeah, right.
You head into town, and it's just like they build up the story to a big finale finish, which is any good story does. That has a big bang at the end. So that's why I like Disney attractions so much, is because that it's not just about delivering a thrill.
Yeah.
I went to Cedar Point, which is probably
Yeah.
the thrill capital of the United States, at least, maybe the
Right.
world. I don't know. And certainly indexing really high on thrills. Lots of big roller coasters, which were incredible. But like me, I think what I'm hungry for is an experience. I
Yeah.
want something to be immersed into. I like being in a world. I like the creativity. I like the humor. I like the narrative. Like there's like you don't think of a roller coaster as having a sense of humor. Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout
Yeah.
at Disneyland, that ride has a true sense of humor, and I love that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. It's like, um people that don't get Disney, like they don't people, friends and family, I love them, but like the people that don't get it, they often question why you keep going back to this place,
Right,
and
right.
like the everybody deals with that. If you're a fan of Disney, you have friends and family that are like, yeah, I don't get it. Um but it's like for them it's, they've been to the Six Flags, they've been to the Cedar Point, and they're comparing it, and they're
Right.
like, "Well, it's just roller coasters, It's like we can just go to Six Flags, But it's like it's not that. It's not. And then like so, my mom loves Disney, and she took me there as a kid, much to my dad's chagrin because he just doesn't get it. Um, so my mom took me as a kid, and then I dragged both my parents last year to Disney World, and I'm like, no, just dad, just give it a chance. And he's
Right.
such a stubborn guy. Like if people ask him about the trip, he's like, oh, it's all right. But like he genuinely pulled me aside and was like, man, thank you for bringing me here. Like I almost teared up a little bit. It was like it was a special moment for me to, it's like what it's all about. Like that's the whole reason you go to Disney. It's not about riding the rides, or it is a little bit, but it's about the immersiveness of everything in general, from rides to like you're saying, like
Dining.
dining
Yeah.
options, like even like going to Main Street Confectionery, like everything has a story, everything has elements. It's like that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's something for everybody. I think I say this all the time. People don't expect that there is something for everybody at Disney World or Disney parks. You have to find that. And so I'm like, I'm my family's Disney expert, and my sort of extended friend group's Disney expert. And so a lot of the people who are around my age, my peers, my friends, they have kids that are about Disney age right now. So they're coming to me, and I get to be the one to, sometimes I go along with them on their Disney trip, which is a huge honor for me as an honorary uncle for a lot of these kids. And
Yeah.
actually a lot of my nieces and nephews, I'm with them, and it's just so much fun. Is sharing that. And it takes a lot of knowledge. It takes a lot of understanding of how Disney parks works to find the right things for the right people and how to handle it.
Yeah.
I've dealt with all kind not dealt with. I've enjoyed my experience spending time with all kinds of people who have all kinds of it could be fears, dietary restrictions, aversions to what water rides, or
Yeah.
noise. There's everyone has, and everyone has their sort of things that they don't want to do, or the things that they're attracted to, the things that they want more of. People are hungry for thrills. Some people are more hungry for something a little bit more calm, and finding those right things for everybody and balancing that trip. I think it's a puzzle every trip I go on with friends and family, but it's one I really really enjoy. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I love anything that has like sufficient complexity to it that you can really spend some time like optimizing and thinking about like how to, a dear friend of mine who just took his family for the first time to Disney World. Um, they did about, I think, 7 days at Disney
Okay.
World, and it wasn't 7 days in the parks, but we had two 1 hour phone calls where we talked about optimizing that, like how, like he was really interested in how does Genie Plus work, Lightning Lane, and
Yeah.
should we do this and Park Hopper, and we just went through all the options and we discussed the personalities of the family and what they're going to like. And then luckily enough, I was able to be there when they were there as well. I didn't spend all my
Oh,
time
great.
with them, but I checked in with them and we met up at certain times, and they had to make all kinds of adjustments because, what I find is that, you have people who change their preferences over time. You got the kid who's afraid on the first day. I've been with kids on the first day at Seven Doors Mine Train, first ride, and they hate it. They're crying. And then by the end, they want to go
Yeah.
on it over and over and over again. So you
Yeah.
sort of adjust. And I love that. I love that aspect of it. There's truly something for everybody there, but you just
Yeah.
have to, it takes a little bit of knowledge, it takes a little know-how, it takes a little bit of experience to know how to find the right things for the right people. And I think, I've been with my fair share of people who've been skeptical about how much they were going to like it, and they ended up finding the thing that they liked a lot. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it's all about, man. That's why we keep coming back. Well,
Yeah.
as we're wrapping up, I mean, we'll have to have you back on, man, because there's so
Yeah,
much
we
we can
could
even
talk
talk
forever.
about. Yeah, right. Because like, I'm running my first Run Disney event. I know you're a runner
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Uh,
What are you doing?
I'm doing the 10 miler in April,
I'll
April
see you there.
21st. Oh, really? Awesome,
Yeah,
man.
I'll see you
Awesome.
there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good.
So
Oh, so you're a runner or not a runner? I forget. Did you?
no, I am a runner.
Okay.
I
Just
would say like I'm doing a whole YouTube video about it because like living in the Northeast, I stopped running for like, a good 4 months and
right. Same. Yeah.
yeah, I just get so depressed this time of year and
Yeah.
like with the days running earlier and so I'm like struggling. I'm like going Mach 10 like with my training. Like
Yeah.
I gotta be ready. Not that 10
Good.
miles is like crazy, but
It's
um
so much. You're gonna love it. I think. So for me, I've been running for 15, 20 years or so,
yeah,
races and everything. If it weren't for races, I wouldn't be a runner. And so I've
yeah.
been doing races all over. Run Disney races are just so extra. They're just so like so far beyond. And it's great motivation for running for me. Like having Run Disney races, I just registered for the Halloween half,
I saw
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, and so at Disneyland, I'm looking forward to that. And having that on the calendar, huge motivation
Yeah.
to keep at it and keep the training going. But honestly, even if you're at a certain level of fitness, even if you don't exactly keep it going, you'll be
Okay.
fine.
Well, that's comforting. What does the future look like for you? I know that's a hard
Oh,
question, but in whatever sense you want to say, but like what does Matt's future look like?
it's a good question. I think honestly, at this stage where I'm at, I'll be honest. I don't have a huge vision for the future. It's more of the same and see where it takes me.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I have a fulfilling job I love, and that's my main thing. But I think I want to continue to find interesting experiences. I want to find new things people have haven't seen before, share that. I mean, ultimately what I'm doing is sharing my experience. I want to keep doing that, see where that goes. Honestly, it's a hobby for me. So I
Hmm.
don't really set goals for myself. I don't
Yeah.
set a vision for myself. I just kind of go where the wind takes me and I do what I feel like doing. Someone is like, I've been asked that before, like, what are your goals for the next year?
Okay.
Like, and I just am like, no, goals are for goals can really kill joy. I'll
That's
be
true.
honest.
That's true.
And again, this goes back to like being your authentic self. As
Yeah.
long as I'm being my authentic self, as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I'm gonna keep doing it, and I'm gonna find new and interesting things. I'm gonna find new things to try, and I'm just gonna kind of go along with it, enjoy it, see what works, see what see what's working, have fun with it. The moment it becomes unfun, I stop. And
Yeah.
goals, I think, are they're good for work, but they're a great
Yeah.
way to kill joy.
Yeah. That is an amazing answer and something I think if anybody's listening should reflect on. Like
Thank you.
that's a really good. I mean, even personally, man, I'm gonna have to think about that too because it's like,
If Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
sorry to know. If you are authentically having fun and you are authentically sharing that in a way that's not wasting people's time, that is giving them, is valuable to them, or making them feel like they're having fun with you, you can't go wrong, right?
Yeah.
You're enjoying yourself. People are going to be attracted to that and want to see that, and you don't have to chase the numbers that you see on the screen when you post a video and you're looking at analytics. You should really just like I mean, really go where what interests you, because that,
Mhm.
ultimately that's what people are after, is that sort of authentic aspect, I think, yeah, at least that's my take on it.
No, yeah, it's a great take, and yeah, like I said, I'll definitely be thinking about that for sure. It is like it's a motivator, to always make sure you're having fun with it for sure. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so like where can people find you if they're not familiar?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I'm Matt Richardson. Everything is linked on mattrichardson.com. I was not able to get Matt Richardson on TikTok, but I'm Matt Hungry Again,
Mm.
which was my old Xbox name. So, but if you go to mattrichardson.com, everything is linked there.